Honestly, there's nothing better than kneading dough with your hands. Look at that. Huh? Beautiful. Hi, welcome to Seeking Simple. My name is Rihanna, and I am back with the most bomb diggity, to quote my husband, dinner rolls just in time for Thanksgiving. My goal with this recipe was to create a make-ahead dough that was still soft and fluffy and gorgeous. You know, you see all those make-ahead like crusty loaf breads, and I love those. They're fantastic. It's great in a soup. It's exactly what I want this time of year, but not for Thanksgiving. You want something soft and pillowy, and so I wanted an enriched dough, which just means that it has milk and butter in it. Some enriched doughs, like a brioche, will also add an egg, but I didn't want to go that far with this one. Tried to kind of keep it simple. When I couldn't find the recipe that I was looking for, I called my mom, because that's what I do. Bread has been my mom's thing, my whole family's thing, for as long as I can remember. So I called her, we talked about it, went back and forth for a little bit, and this is what I came up with. This recipe should make about a dozen dinner rolls. Not huge ones, just enough, you know, so there's still room for mashed potatoes and pie. Depends on how long you let them rise. The more time you have, the bigger they're gonna get, basically. So we're gonna start with 2 cups of white flour and 2 cups of whole wheat flour. The 2 different flours have a purpose. The whole wheat flour will give you that sweet nuttiness that is so good in whole wheat breads, but the white flour will still help it rise nicely. Next is a tablespoon of dry yeast and a tablespoon of salt. So there are 2 ways that you could make this, and it just depends on your schedule. Well, I guess technically there are 3, but we won't get into that. You can do 1 rise today. We'll get into it. You can do 1 rise today, throw it in the fridge, and finish the 2nd rise tomorrow. You can throw it in the fridge as soon as you finish mixing it up, and do both rises tomorrow, or you can do it all today. So basically, you're gonna knead your dough, you're gonna let it rise, you're gonna shape it, let it rise again, and then bake it. So you could split up your days pretty much anywhere in there. What I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna mix it all up, I'm gonna throw it all in the fridge. Tomorrow morning, I'll punch it down, shape it, let it rise a 2nd time, and bake it. But depending on the amount of time that you have, you might wanna mix that up. And the reason I'm saying that here is because since I'm planning to throw it all in the fridge right now, I'm not worried about having my liquid warm. A lot of time you'll see warm water or warm milk, depending on the type of bread that you're making. That's what you put your yeast in to help activate that yeast. But because I'm throwing it in the fridge and it's going to be a really slow rise, I'm not worried about that. I'm just using milk that's been, well, it's been on my counter for like 10 minutes now, so it's not very warm. But if you were going to do 1 or both of the rises today, I would make sure that my ingredients were warm. All right, I'm just gonna make sure my yeast and my salt are combined with my flours. So you could do this with all white or all whole wheat flour. If you do all whole wheat flour, oh goodness, I almost forgot. Gluten flour. Gluten flour is gonna help it rise better. If you are doing all whole wheat flour, you definitely are gonna wanna make sure that you have some gluten flour in there to help it rise. And just, you might even give it a little extra time. Okay, now I'm gonna mix that up. It's not necessary, but it does help give you a nicer bread. All right, next in we're adding our liquid ingredients. So I have a 1/4 cup of melted butter. Gonna do a 1/4 cup of honey. 3/4 of a cup of milk and 3/4 of a cup of water. It's very sticky right now, so I don't want it to be too dry, but when you see, if I try to stretch it out to do that window pane test, it's just so sticky that I think it's falling apart. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more flour to it. See, I want the dough to be kind of worked around the bowl by the dough hook instead of just moving around stuck to the dough hook. See how it's starting to come off the dough hook a little bit? All right, let's get this out and feel it. Still pretty sticky on the inside, see that? Honestly, there's nothing better than kneading dough with your hands. Getting to feel it. It is very nice that I have a mixer and I don't have to all the time. But when I have a minute, there's something about it, you know? You can feel what it needs. See, now I can feel that it's just a little bit tacky, but it's not sticky. I can push on it and see it pop back up. So I think we're getting pretty close. There's that window pane. What that tells us is that the gluten fibers are stretched out enough. And that is it for today, for this version. The yeast is still gonna work in the fridge, it's just gonna work slower. So it'll get a nice slow rise overnight. I'll pull it out in the morning and let it sit on the counter for another couple of hours until I'm ready to shape it. Hey, welcome back to day 2. So the bread dough was in the fridge all night long. I pulled it out of the fridge at like 7 this morning. So it's been sitting on the counter, let's see, church, lunch, froyo, 6 hours-ish. We're gonna punch it down. Not as beautifully risen as I would have hoped, but that's okay. We're gonna punch it down, let those gluten fibers relax. It's gonna rest for 10 minutes and then we'll shape it into the rolls and give it another good rise for probably an hour, maybe 2 before we bake. Okay, I'm gonna divide this up into 12 pieces. Okay, I'm at 12 pounds, 5 ounces-ish. So 12 pounds, 2 pounds, 5 ounces. Okay, that's about half of that. I'm not gonna weigh these out all the way. Just want to make sure I'm kind of getting started in an even place. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I will weigh them out all the way. There we go. Now I'm just gonna make them a little bit prettier. Just move them around and pinch them up right there. Just a little bit prettier, not much. My house is not very warm right now, so I'm gonna cover them in just barely damp towels and put them in the dehydrator, because the dehydrator will keep them at that right temperature, nice and warm, but I don't actually want them to dehydrate, hence the damp towels. I also don't want them wet, so we'll see how this works. I haven't actually done it this way before. Here we go. Okay, we did an hour and a half on the second rise, and you can see, so this side was in the back of the dehydrator and it got more dry. I actually spritzed it down with water at one point, which this is not relevant if you're not using a dehydrator to rise your bread. But this side stayed more wet, and it's a lot easier to pull this off. These ones are gonna be nicer, because over here on this side, it's sticking a little bit. So as I'm peeling it off, it's kind of thumping it, and these ones might fall on this side a little more. But look at that. Go this way, they'll look nicer that way. Beautiful. Okay, so they're going into the oven for, I don't remember, I think it was 20 minutes. I will check it out and correct myself if I'm wrong. So these are going in the oven at 350 for 20 minutes. Look at that beauty. My brush broke, so don't mind my little tiny thing. I don't know if you can hear them playing Zelda in the background. So we let these bake for 20 minutes. and they got nice and just golden brown on top. They also, I stuck a thermometer in them just to be sure, and they were at about 194. The goal is right about 190, so I am happy with that temperature. Oh man. So right now in my life it is about 3:30, and I feel like that is a totally acceptable time frame for Thanksgiving dinner. It's perfect. Oh my goodness. Fresh bread. Oh my gosh. Thanks for hanging out and baking with me today, guys. And if you have not made these bread rolls yet, if you are waiting for the right occasion, don't wait, just make them. Life is the occasion. So make the bread, eat the bread, enjoy the bread, feed the bread to your children. It's amazing. Want a bite? And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of the Thanksgiving recipes that I'm working on.
My towel.
Say bye.
Bye.